GERENetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the GERE Radio Network. You're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast on the GERE Radio Network.
And with that, we welcome you to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the GERE Radio Network. This here episode is 187.
Oh, wow. Episode 187 on a mother... What? It's not?
186.
Damn it, Ryan.
It's 186.
Ah, all right. Well,
I was looking at my notes, and I thought they were old notes, but they were new notes. So it's 186.
Let me just verify that really quickly.
I'm looking at betterlivethandead.com, my man. Episode number 186.
All right, fine. 186 people. I got all excited.
Lifeless.
I was getting ready to go 187 on the mother, you know, but nope. I can't do that now. Thanks, Ryan.
It's been 7 months since we've blown the dust off this podcast. It's been life has been very busy, as I'm sure people understand.
Oh, yeah.
By the time John and I have time at the end of the day to chat, both of us are like, man, I would love to talk to you, but I can barely keep my eyes open.
Yeah, that's what happens in the adulting world. You know, it's crazy because GERE Network, I don't know if you know this yet or not, Ryan, in 2 days from press recording, I believe it's 2 days. I was looking on Facebook memories, but now my memory's jogged here. GERE turns 10. So I think it's funny to kind of look back and reflect over the last 10 years here at GERE and where each of us were then to where we are now. The story just in between is it's crazy and it's wild when you think about it. 10 years, dude.
I mean, good Lord, we started in a garage. We won't talk too much about that.
No, you could say I don't fucking care.
Moved our way over here. Lost the music bed that played the whole time.
Oh yes, that stupid freaking music.
And we just took off.
Do you know? Not for nothing. He still does the music.
Hey, there are some hills you have to die on.
I was forwarded some of his shitty podcasts recently, and like it still does the music. Like, whatever. But no, I do remember. I remember vividly, especially this. You know, BLTD is why BLTD is always going to have a special place in my heart because of the fact that where it came from. As you're right, I think it was what was it, TNX Sports or something like that.
Yeah, it originally started when I was in college, and I decided to stop going to college and said, well, I really want to do this, but the amount of time and effort and interest in doing it just isn't worth it to me. And then got a call, text, whatever, Facebook message one day, and kind of took off from there. And then John, once you saw the interest in that I was displaying, I mean, you hit me up and we just took off. And honestly, I hate to be so cliche, but like we got together and it's 10 years later.
And we haven't looked back. It's, it's been a fun journey, and it filled a hole for me, the, GERE Network in general. Not just BLTD, my appearances on it, or the offshoot Trust the Podcast, which is now my second home. And well, not now, it's been for quite some time now, really.
Absolutely.
Wow. Time, it kind of like time meshes, but it filled a major void that wrestling wasn't filling for me when I started GERE Network. So I think part of that is, whenever there's any sort of passion, anything that I'm passionate about, I'll give the most all I can towards it. And what I always found awesome, and not just with you, but with Perez early on as well, and just everybody else that has popped up, come and gone through these doors, podcast or not, they've all contributed something towards the growth of GERE Network. Some significantly more than others, but nonetheless, there's so many different things that have come from this little operation that we've got going on here and that we've had going on here. And I didn't think, I wasn't sure how long we'd honestly last, but, in a blink of an eye, 10 years goes. And, privately, I had said to Michelle probably about maybe a year and a half ago that I think at 10 years I was going to, stop podcasting and all of that. And then, 5 months ago, I upgraded my entire setup, with the mics and the, soundboards and all that, the better computer, the whole nine, the studio. And so I said, at minimum, I'm committing to another 10. So
That's
y'all
fair,
ain't,
man.
y'all ain't losing me for a while.
Well, and that's the hard part too, because like obviously it goes without saying, working a full-time job, being a parent, it's a lot. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm not telling anything that any parent or any person who works a full-time job out there doesn't already know. So for me, the problem has always been making time to make sure I stay connected to other people that are important to me.
Yeah.
And I have not done a good job at that. And I know that, but I also know that like people like you, Brayton, Lewis, all understand it. Chris Downey too, but Chris Downey just will randomly text me photos of Sydney Sweeney in the middle of the day. And I'm like, bro,
well, I guess
you're at work. You gotta calm down.
I was gonna say, I was wondering where you were going with that, with what types of photos he was sending to you. Like he wasn't. If he was the type of dude that sent you, a fleshlight, in
barely clothed, but enough that if it popped up on my computer screen, people wouldn't be like, "Why are you looking at a naked woman?" But still, it's one of those jump scares because you don't expect to get a slightly clothed woman text to your phone at 12:30 in the afternoon or whatever. But that's one thing, breaking down the fourth wall. Like when I started going to therapy a long time ago, which I haven't gone in a while, that's probably not a good thing. It was like, make sure you make time for people that are important to you to allow you to break away from work life and just kind of refresh and reconnect. And you get to the point where you start to feel kind of disconnected, where you just keep doing the same thing every day. You're yep, check the box, go to bed, wake up, work, go to bed, wake up, work, take care of the baby, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you reach a point where you're like, hey, I got to find something different to shake it up a bit, which is where, I mean, I think that's kind of where the GERE Network came from. And that's how it all started. Was we were interested in doing this. We showed the interest to want to, I mean, for me,
I went all the way through school for it. So
yeah, for me, it's and me, I just got to it and was like, oh, you only make $30,000 a year. I'm not going to school for 3 more years to make $30,000 a year. Screw that. I want to do something else.
Right. Exactly.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I know that I wouldn't be thrilled if no one listened, but even if one person listens, it makes it worth it for me, because I like to be able to have those conversations with you and Lewis and whomever else is on the podcast. Like, that's why the Bills season for me is so much fun. And then when it's over, it kind of is like, okay, we got to take a break, because there's that vacuum where you're like, all right, well, I'd love to keep talking about it, but also I don't want to force anything. So like with the BLTD podcast, it was Lewis and I could have continued on. John, you and I could have continued on. Chris and I, Brayton and I, insert me, anybody else, or insert 2 other people that aren't any of us, could have continued doing this. But you want to get to a point where you don't want to feel like you're forcing it. And I think that's kind of where the BLTD podcast went, was, hey, look at, life is happening. Our families are growing. Either our families are growing or our kids are growing, or John, you've taken on a bigger responsibility at work. I've taken on a bigger responsibility at work. And at the end of the day, it's because, again, that's another thing too. Like, we could make $0.00 off of this year and I would still do it. So that has nothing to do with it. It's the life capital that it takes, where it's like, I want to make sure I'm continuing to maintain those relationships that I have.
Sure.
But John, I've known you for half of my life now, where if I don't text you for a couple days and then send you a funny TikTok, it's like, we picked up right where we left off.
Right. Yes. And I think I think what you're describing is, and I know exactly where you are, because when my family was growing, a lot of those things. It was very difficult to get a JC Money show out. It was very difficult to make an appearance on BLTD. It was easier for me to kind of be executive producer for like all of the other podcasts that are, still flowing through the network, and doing that because I didn't have necessarily the time. And then, like, for me, after I got divorced in 2018, which, goddamn, 6 years ago, It's crazy. But I had to, spend a lot of time really hustling and working and kind of pulling myself away from everything and everybody. And, I think what it boils down to is, the newness of everything as the eras change, if you will,
Yeah.
as the eras change and we go from being, knucklehead guys to being, young parents, right? Parents of younger children, not necessarily you and I age wise. Though we had our children around the same time frame, in each of our respective journeys. But like being, that 30-year-old new-ish parent, right? Experiencing the growth of, your child for the first time, your family for the first time, a lot of firsts that go there. And that's partly why I didn't jump on the podcasting back when you and Lewis did on the old network there. One, because I didn't want to deal with the freaking head honcho there. He's a terrible idiot. But he's an idiot. But number two, I know I couldn't dedicate the time because my daughter Gianna was like 2 or 3 at the time. And when I even made just one appearance on one of his podcasts there during that year, like it was, 3-year-old Gianna and wanted to get on the microphone. And now if she did, she'd tell me to fuck off. But,
I have that now where even while I'm working, I will, because, full disclosure, if you don't know by now, I work from home. 2 days a week. My 2 days a week, my daughter is here with my mother-in-law. Other times she goes to daycare. She'll just come down while I'm on a call and just come hang out in the background. And people are just like,
yeah.
She's perfectly fine. But then if I'm on a call, she'll come start yelling in my microphone. And I'm like, sorry, guys.
When COVID hit, I mean, I think I met everybody's kids in my normal 9 to 5 and they met mine. Because it was so weird and new and everybody connecting audio wise and all of that. But I think, as far as the journey goes, for me, having now in the decade of my 40s, I feel like I'm able to connect a lot more dots. And that's where my understanding comes in, where I know if I don't hear from someone for a certain period of time, and then, like I said, you send a funny TikTok video, which I don't freaking have TikTok, but because it's you, I go on the internet, on the web browser and view it there.
I appreciate that.
But, and then it's just like, business as usual, like, because you've come to that peace and you come to that understanding and you and your personal intentions and that the people that are supposed to be around you and supposed to be in your life are there for a reason. And on the opposite end, the people that are not there are also not there for a reason, right? And when you, as a person, I'm getting, on my soapbox here, I suppose, but when you as a person understand that and come to that peace on both avenues and not, always wonder about, I gotta, make a chore about this, or I gotta do this because of this, or because this, and you free flow it and you come to that balance and you have that proverbial chive. That's how I'm able to be like, oh yeah, whatever, what time you want to get up and do this podcast? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think part of that comes with experience and comes with a small, maybe repositioning of how we think of our getting togethers and making it like none of this should ever feel like a chore.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it does, but why does it? It does because we've got a lot of other things going on at the same time. And it's just time management and balancing that and getting in where you can fit in and not trying to push something. Like a couple times this past season with Trust Podcast, Ryan, there was a few times where I was like, I don't know if I can make this podcast because of, work and traveling for this and then wrestling, being back in wrestling but like during the football season, it's very busy for cheer as well with me as a cheer dad for 2 cheerleaders. So I'm really penny pinching for time. Whereas now it's an off season for all that. And I'm like, okay, cool. it's all about finding that balance and that mental clarity and understanding too within yourself that you're not wrong for feeling how you feel and that you're not a bad guy for maybe not having to maybe not sending 16 text messages a day, and maybe it's 16 text messages over the course of a month, right? You're not a bad guy for that. You just got shit going on.
Yeah. Well, I always feel bad when I send dumb shit to you and Lewis and I don't hear anything back, and I'm like, I'm just going to keep sending it.
No, you keep sending it, but so here's the thing. So a lot of my messages, because I've gotten this from a lot of people as well, where they have sent me things, right? Whether Instagram, Messenger, normal text chain, or whatever. One of our two that we have with the same three people, and only two people at a time can get a damn message on.
That's why there's an antitrust lawsuit going to Apple right now. I told you, because I finally got an iPhone and now I can't text Android and only Lewis.
I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you. You did this. You broke that nucleus.
Hey, I can text you fine. I can text you fine.
That's great. But no, it's I don't know. I lost it, man. That lawsuit text message. No, but I mean, it's just, finding that balance, man. When you send me those things, or when anybody sends me those things, a lot of times, like during the day, I'm very tied up during the day.
Sure.
So I will see it and I will, I'll click the button, I'll read it, or I'll acknowledge it, or give it a thumbs up or a ha, or sometimes if I don't read it, it's because I've seen it. I'm in the, and I shouldn't be watching it right now or whatever, or I'm driving or somewhere doing something, right? And then I set the phone down.
Here,
right. And then I put the phone down and I'm like, and then I just forget to reply because I don't have my phone on me constantly anymore like I used to when I was younger.
Dude, I can't tell you. Yeah, I cannot tell you how many text messages I've missed, how many, not really phone calls, because nobody calls me except for my brother and my parents and my sister.
Right.
Usually.
Yeah.
But again, you get to the point where you're like, hey, I try to keep up. There's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you're like, oh, it's been 5 or 6 days. And usually if people don't understand that, that's, unfortunately hey, you look like the bad guy to them, but that's, again, that's why we talk about that's why we're here talking about this now. Cause like, hey,
well, right.
That's what happened to the podcasts.
Right. But like go to those type of people, they haven't hit that mental clarity that I described earlier yet with them. So, and I can't ever throw shame. They will throw shame on me, someone like me, I should say. I don't want to say they, because I don't want to insinuate anybody. Though you and I know what I'm talking about. But if I can't throw shade or whatever on them if they're not where I am yet. You know what I mean? Because
how dare you not always be on your cell phone? I mean, John,
right?
No joke. I'm hard on myself now about it, because again, during the day, my phone's in front of me. I'm barely ever looking at it. If you're not my wife or texting me incessantly saying something's wrong, probably don't respond unless something big happens. But I'm to the point now where like I'm watching my phone time like a hawk, because if I'm not on the phone during the day, but I'm still spending 4 or 5 hours on my phone in total, when's that time happening?
Sure. And it's great that you're doing that now too, but it's not a crime for you to use the phone too. You know what I mean?
No, I usually sit in bed and watch. I would sit in bed and watch TikToks or catch up, because I have a group of friends and family who understand that I'm a terrible responder on Instagram, on TikTok, but they will comfortably send me tons of videos, and then there will come a night where I watch 45 videos in a row, and I'm just like, oh, cool, I'm all caught up now.
That's how I view Instagram. For some reason, Instagram messages doesn't alert me when I get those. So every day, or every 2 days or whatever, I always come to a litany of just messages on Instagram of funny reels and videos and things like that. And I will go one by one, I'll pick a night or pick a time or whatever. I'll go one by one. And usually I will be laughing my ass off at most of them. And it's the sentiment there. Yeah. That's the point. That's the sentiment there though, is that, to me, where, at one point in time, I could have been like, oh, well, what the hell? I didn't hear from you for a while, blah, 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 or whatever. Now it's more like, now my mindset is more, they thought enough. I'm glad they thought that they saw this and thought of me and thought I would laugh at it. They were correct. nice
Yeah.
nice to be
That's-
thought of. You know
that's-
what I mean? And that's kind of where I am, not just, speaking specifically to messages or podcasts or anything, but just life in general. Like,
Yeah.
I view life through that scope now, and I have been for quite some time. It's very addicting to live a life like that, but it's addicting in a good way.
I mean, I love my friends, I love my family, but I would rather spend time watching my daughter grow up and cause trouble, because she likes to have a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And I know we haven't talked about it really extended in an extended fashion, but things are going to be a little different come June.
Yes,
So it's
they
like,
are.
I don't want to miss any of this, but also I know that it's very important to have things like this in life. And I appreciate
Sure.
you for doing this and taking the time, because again, at the end of the day, I like to be able to talk. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to specific people because I know they're listening, but just kind of talk into a general direction of, hey, I haven't thought about baseball in probably 2.5 years because the Red Sox have been awful, or
Right.
baseball's just not fun for me to watch anymore. Like or I don't have the time. But like those are the kinds of things that I think, looking back to look forward, those are the kinds of things I need to start doing more of. Like, hey, Red Wings have a bunch of matinees. Take half a day and go to a baseball game. Just get out of
Right.
the house.
Exactly.
Like, making sure I'm
Exactly.
doing stuff like that, because and I think anybody who listens to this that knows me well enough knows that I am impossible to get out of the house. Once I'm out of the house, I'm having a grand old time.
Sure.
Like I'm going to wrestling on Sunday. I'm like,
Oh, you're going to the
man,
GCW show?
oh God, yeah. I was like,
Nice.
oh man, I don't really know if I want to go out. And I'm like, let's just
I
go.
may or may not be there.
Ooh, I like that.
No, not in a wrestling capacity or anything.
I'm saying, like, to see you there, to see you in person would be great.
But I may.
I try to avoid local wrestling shows because I know, like, by proxy, unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of people locally. So I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you in 7 or 8, 9, 10 years. How are you?
Oh, well, I mean, if you were to come to a UPW show, like, none of those people would be, there were two different crowds in the era that you knew of in wrestling, and one of those crowds is the crowd that I largely like grew up in, and that's kind of where I am now. Whereas some of the other, some of the folks in that other crowd kind of, did enough to work themselves out of that limelight. And
I just want to go see Danhausen, dog.
Oh yeah, trust me. There's a lot of people that are like, "Hey, I know Danhausen's coming here. Is that a UPW show?" I'm like, "No, it's a GCW show. It's bigger, the super indie."
I'm super excited. I'm interested that it's
and one of my very good friends. I'd like to see how it's going to look in Water Street. That's going to be interesting. I know some of my Buffalo friends are going to be on that show, booked in smaller roles, and one of my friends as well is the executive producer of the media there. So he's going to be recording the show. If I can't make the show, I'm probably going to watch it on Fight or whatever it's on.
Well, and that's stuff like that will open up doors for sure for local wrestling in the area, because we found out that Water Street's a place you can have a show and it's not expensive for a place to have a show there. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I know what the price was for it. That much I could tell you. It's a little out of range for most local companies.
Oh,
that I can tell you.
Never mind.
That I can tell you.
But hey,
it's not just the venue. It's everything else that comes with it.
Oh, sure.
The insurance and the doctor and paying the ambulance. There's a lot of parts of like New York State Athletic Commission with pro wrestling. They still treat it like a sport. And group it kind of like MMA and boxing, where they have to have nowadays. Where it wasn't always like this. I can't remember when it started, what year it started. But now companies, when they run like shows, have to have an ambulance present, and the ambulance charges per hour. Yikes. So that's like a massive expense, and can be, and they're to the minute too. So if you book 3 hours, right, and your show crosses even a minute into that 4th hour, they're billing you the full hour. So
hey, that's good business if you can get it, brother.
It's good business if you can get it, but that's where, from a promoter aspect, they and UPW does this very, very well. I have to commend them for this. They're like, these are times. Make sure you get within your time, or we're stopping the match and calling it a draw, and we don't care. Like, because does it cost too damn much? Like when I saw, I'm like, damn, dude, and learned all of these inner workings and things like, because this run here for me with pro wrestling is not my, it's my swan song as an in-ring competitor, but it's not my swan song in wrestling. I don't think I'll ever leave wrestling again. I've probably got about another good 1.5 to 2 years maybe of in-ring wrestling. And then, but instead of doing the, retirement or the long drug out kind of bullshit that you see most people do just for like whatever, like I know I have a home in wrestling outside of actually doing it, like as a character. I know I have the ability to ring announce. I know I have experience with production. I know there's a market for that. I know I can talk on a mic. I could be the MC, guest host. I could be, a commentator, or I could start a podcast that's specific to that and focus on that and bring more eyes and more ears and attention to that. Sure. So my wrestle life is by no stretch of the imagination over now. But in this run that I've been on, it hasn't been just wrestling. I've been learning all of the other different elements and really fascinated by the show as a whole now.
Yeah, pretty much happy learned how to putt.
Yeah, it's not like the wrestler. It's such a common theme and a common thought that be a wrestling show just involves wrestlers and being wrestlers. But there is so much more to it that makes that show go. Like this run with JC Money, the character, arguably the most fun I've had, and I've done so very little. The production team there makes me look like a star. We had like the last promo for the last show a couple of weeks ago. I recorded. I tried to do it. I set up like my Zoom. I set up my camera on Zoom, and then I did like a background that it was supposed to kind of resemble like older school wrestling, right? Like cutting a promo. Yeah, this Sunday I'm gonna blah 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 blah. But you've got like the logo behind you or something. Yeah. So I meant to do it like that, but it was just off of my webcam, my Zoom cam, certain lighting effects or whatever. I send it there, they chop it up and they make it look like something out of Lucha Underground. And
that's incredible.
And it's like, and it's crazy to me to see how they've really helped the character of JC Money really outshine the diminished skills that I may have as a 43-year-old wrestler now. And so to be able to kind of intertwine the two and present it in a way where it looks like JC Money is this mean, angry mob boss is hilarious to me. And then you talk about like the improv stuff. Before every show, they go on Instagram Live and they'll, have interviews with the wrestlers or whatever, kind of pumping up the show, right? But those 100% off script, no script, right? So if there's anybody, if any of you ever want to watch JC Money and you can't make it to a show, at least do yourself a favor and follow UPW on Instagram. And before each show, when they go live, Facebook Live, just look for those. Anything with me and Nick Russo, the interview, or Chip Stetson or Shane Stetson, there's some kind of shenanigans working. And I do my best to rip off like 1980s Macho Man without actually going into the voice. I challenge myself to do his mannerisms without doing the voice.
I love that. That especially because your Macho Man always cracks me up on.
It's hilarious. I dropped I created the last promo. I'll share and then I'll kick it. I'll stop talking. But it was funny to me because they were trying to film a serious-ish promo with UPW champion Shane Stetson and his father, the legendary Hall of Famer Chip Stetson, right? With whom I'm also aligned with in like a little click on screen as well. So they brought, or Chip did, they stopped at like this grocery store on the way there, they got this jar of like of pickles with and it had just like a little like jalapeno taste to it, right? So you get just a nice little kick. It was pretty damn good. I had one. It was pretty good. But they went to go do the promo, and I'm waiting for my non-official official cue because they wanted some kind of shenanigans to happen. But you know, I just said I'll think of something whenever I'm queued up. I'll jump in and I'll say something or whatever, or whenever the timing is right. I think was what I said. I'll listen and then I'll come in. So they start going and it, you know, they were kind of getting on the interviewer for not properly introducing them. And all of a sudden it jumped on me. I'm like, ooh, I got it. I look over, I see the jar of pickles and I pick it up and I hide it behind me. And then I immediately just haul ass and bolt right into the interview. And I start, yelling at the announcer for not appropriately introducing the world champ and not appropriately introducing the Hall of Famer. Meanwhile, I'm over here showing that I have this great, I'm such a great person. I come bearing gifts. Chip and Shane had no idea I grabbed the pickle jar, though. So you can see Chip kind of like have this look on his face like he genuinely didn't know what was going. He was playing along, but he genuinely, you could tell, didn't know what was coming. And so I said, I know how much you like pickles, and I brought out the pickle jar, and everyone is, oh hey. So we start centering it around the pickle there, and we didn't necessarily say or tell the interviewer that the pickle had a little bit of a kick to it, a little bit of a heat kick to it. So Chip goes in, grabs like the smallest pickle, right, that you can find. And then he gives it to Russo. And I'm over here, freaking 1980s, 1990s bully. Eat the pickle, Russo! Eat the pickle! Yeah, that's a good pickle, isn't it? Just like dumb shit like that, right? And he looks and he goes, he was like, actually, I can't lie. It's actually a pretty good pickle. And then I said, and I turn around and I look at the camera and I was like, and it's got a little kick to it. It'll kick you right in the mouth taint. And immediately the cameraman starts laughing. Russo has this look on his face like, oh God, I don't know what the hell's going on here. And then I turn around and I exit from there and let the interview continue. But like it's the improv stuff that I've been having a hell of a lot of fun doing. So even if I'm not wrestling, I could see myself when the time comes to hang up the tights, still randomly showing up in people's promos, almost like R-Truth in a way.
That's fair.
And being the local R-Truth. Like that's, I think, where I'm going with it.
I love that idea.
Right now I'm Dollar Tree Macho Man.
That works. Ow, I just stretched my leg out too far and it really hurt my knee. I think that this will probably just pop up whenever we feel like it. I'm cool with that. I do want to get to some baseball games here soon. Rochester, I haven't been to a Red Wings game in quite a while.
Oh, yeah?
They've got some 11:05 and 105 games coming up here in the next couple months. So maybe
what are you doing? What are you doing for the home opener?
I don't know what day it is.
4:05 on April 2nd.
I can let you know.
Weather will probably be very shitty. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
Spring,
it's April,
Mother Nature is drunk right now. But I'm planning on going, even if it's alone. Michelle can't go. Michelle can't go. My kids are out of town with their mother. Brandon can't go. Mr. Paul can't go. So
damn, you're really getting down the list, making me feel great here, John.
Well, I kind of by
that would be great. That would be fun.
It was through it wasn't like I was going through a list and saying, okay, April 2nd, who. It was like just the usual, hey, let's plan a game. What's April looking like for everybody?
Yeah, I'll have to take a look and see and let you know because that would be great. But
like for me, every Tuesday in April that has a home game, like I'm available for. So, the most of them, everybody was kind of like later in the month type of thing. So
sure.
really, for me, I'm gonna go either way, but I would love to go with someone. So
it'd be great to go to a game and hang out. I mean, I could say get Lewis to go to a game, but half the time I don't know where he is. So
he'll probably be somewhere. He'll probably be somewhere driving from some destination where he was doing his business, smoking a cigar, and listening to this podcast, because we'll finally post it by then. And he'll be like, "That's a true story to a lot of things." And then he'll hear this part, and he'll be like, "Man, fuck you." But that's a true story.
That's exactly what he'll say. Yeah. Well,
we got to get his ass on a podcast too.
Yeah, we do. We got to get together soon as it gets warmer out. I've got some time opening up here, so we'll get together. We'll have to get together soon. But I'm gonna wrap this up because I got to pee real bad.
Yes, you pee real bad.
Let's dust it off here. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
For John Cimino, I am Ryan Wolfe, saying thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to listen to our random ramblings. Hopefully we'll be back soon. If not, this should hold you over until then.
Indeed. And ciao, ciao.
Bye.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the GERE Network.